So I got my loom set up. I have some waste yarn weaved in here, and you can see that this is nice and rectangular. Okay, so as this goes back into the heddle, it's not skewed, it's not being pulled inwards. I've used these cardboard strips, and you can see that with the cardboard strips, what I'm doing is equally spacing each warp thread as far as possible before I start weaving in the waste yarn. And that just gives us a really good start to our project. And what I'm going to do is wind the entire cake onto my shuttle. You don't want to wind it on tight, but you don't want to wind it on too loose either. This takes a bit of time, so again, we'll do this and speed it up. What I usually do is hold it on one side, get it loaded up, okay, and I'll do 30 or 40 and then flip this over, and that way it goes on evenly, because you want to be holding onto the shell reasonably well. Don't want to wind this on super tight though. Okay, so we're all wound on now. That is basically one entire ball of the yarn. We're going to be able to do most of the scarf with this, and one of the reasons that I choose this for starter projects is it's pretty thick yarn, you can kind of see. And so obviously the thicker the yarn is, the fewer weft threads you're going to need. Okay, so a little bit of terminology. This is our shuttle, okay? We want the shuttle to be approximately the width of what we're doing. It doesn't matter if it's wider, but you don't want like a 32-inch shuttle for this, because otherwise you'll constantly be winding and unwinding. Okay, so shuttle's here. And then you can see that this is in a neutral position. So all these threads are together. If I push it down, you'll see that I actually make a shed, and I can pass the shuttle through this shed. The first few passes are going to be a bit tricky because this is quite chunky now, as you can probably see, but it gets easier as you go. And then when we bring it up, we create a different shed. So these middle threads, when I bring it up, are at the top, and when I push it down, they're at the bottom. Okay, and that's essentially how we create our weave. I choose to have this in the up position when I'm going from right to left, and in the down position when I'm going from left to right. So getting started is relatively straightforward. What we're going to do is have the, we can actually have the shuttle in the down position, and I'm going to start this one about halfway through. Now there's a knot in here which was probably tied to keep all of this together and stop it from unraveling. I'm also going to stitch this once I've done a little bit to hold it all together. So I'm going to take that knot out because I don't want a big lump halfway through here. And I'm essentially going to come in from this side. And as I said, the first couple are tricky, so you kind of want your shuttle level. Okay, I'm going to bring this in about halfway. Okay, so this is sort of doing this by hand at the moment. And bring it in here about halfway. Going to leave this up about 45 degrees. Doesn't exactly matter where you do this. You can have it on the end if you're sewing it. I prefer to have it in the middle because I think it's less likely to unravel and look kind of ugly. And then we're just simply going to beat. Okay, you don't have to beat it hard, you just bring it down level. And then we'll put this in the top position. And we're going to go back again. So I'm going to unwind a little bit and then just take my shuttle through. Okay, now this time when I come through, what I'm going to want to do is make sure that I'm tight here, but I don't want to pull this in. Okay, so I got about a 45-degree angle here. I've got this reasonably tight, but not too tight. Okay, I want to make sure that I've got a straight line back and forth, and then I beat again. Okay, Now, you want to make sure that you don't have a big loop here. If you do, it's fine. You just bring it back to the position it was in, and you can sort of pull it a little bit. Okay, and then beat it again. Okay, we're in the down position. We're going from left to right. We take the shuttle through the shed. Okay, you can wiggle it a little bit. No need to force anything. Again, we're going to pull our threads tight here. 45 degrees, beat. And that's all there is to it. It's pretty easy. Top position, same thing again. I'm going to come through. Okay, bring my shuttle through the shed. And off we go again. And this is really all there is to it. The hard part of weaving is choosing your threads, figuring out, how to make stuff, how much you're going to need, how much yarn, all the rest of it, and then warping the loom. The actual weaving process, relatively straightforward. So we're just going to go weave a bit. I'll speed this up, and then I'll come back and show you how to do this stitching. Or we might just weave the whole thing and do this stitching at the end. So what I want to do here, you'll see I made a mistake here, okay? I didn't unwind anything off of the shuttle, and so it's too tight here and it's pulling everything in. So when you do feel like you've made a mistake, it's totally fine. You just unwind back to where you were, maybe beat it again, just to get everything nice and neat. Okay, I'm going to come down here. Okay, I want to make sure that I'm tensioned as well. And that's going to be an important part of this, just keeping the loom fairly well tensioned, because I don't want this to be loose. Okay, and it helps you have a better shed and everything else. Okay, so I'm just going to come through again, and off we go. Okay, so we'll keep going until we need to advance everything, and then I'll go through what you need to do there. So again, about 45 degrees. You don't want this to be tight down, otherwise it's going to start to pull your piece in, and you want the piece to be a relatively standard width. I won't worry too much when you're starting to, because it is going to look a bit higgledy-piggledy, but that's okay. Okay, so I'm going from right to left, so I want my heddle in the upright position, or in the upper position, and then just bring through the shed, pull it tight, 45 degrees, beat. You don't have to beat hard. That's the other thing. You're just pulling it down. And you want to make sure that everything is parallel with each other. It's pretty easy to beat one way and everything gets a bit skew with. Again, when you're starting, it doesn't matter. The other thing is we're going to bloom this when we're done. And what's going to happen is any gaps, the thread will bloom out to fill those gaps. So you really don't have to do this hard. Okay, off we go again. And so this is really the fun part of weaving. You can put a show on TV or put some music on, or have a conversation with somebody. You don't have to rush at this. You're not doing piecework. It's just fun. And it's pretty relaxing. Okay. We've only woven a couple of inches, but what I want to do now is show you how we advance the loom. We have all this gunk at the bottom, so you're going to do this basically at the point at which you can't get your angle in, you probably want to advance. Okay, and we want to maintain tension. Okay, and we're going to be coming onto this front roller. All right, so what I usually do is put the heddle in the middle position, okay, and I'm going to use these paper bags. These are grocery bags that I've basically split out, okay. I took the handles off. This is the bottom of the bag. The handles used to be here. I'm actually going to wind these on, and what that's going to do is it's going to separate these layers and essentially keep it from kind of binding into itself. Okay, so I'm going to take that and just kind of put it under here. You can of course use these bags instead of the cardboard sticks. Okay, and as I advance it, what you're going to notice is the cardboard separators at the back, they're just going to drop out. Okay, so to advance it, I basically go against the ratchet and what I'm going to want to do essentially is this is all too tight now. I'm just going to loosen it at the back. I'll be a bit careful here because we don't want it to all unwind. Okay, particularly because there's a weight on here. You can see that, a cardboard stick is coming out already. That's totally fine. This is much easier once you got it started too. So right now I got too many things going on at once. So I'm going to lock that again because I don't want to lose my tension. I'm going to drop this in here and just wind it on. Okay. All right, you can see now it's picking up the tension again, which is great. I can put this back up here now. Okay, and just going to wind it on a bit more. Probably want to just have this hanging down here rather than going over that bar. Okay, wind it in. Okay, see what my tension's like. Wind it in a little bit more. Okay, now we have pretty good tension, which we want, and we're almost all the way back. So because I let the tension off, you can see that this particular weft thread has gone all over the place. So I'm just going to slack off this a bit and beat it again. Okay, and I can just get it nice and even. I want it to be parallel with this front roller. Okay, I'm on my left-hand side, so my shuttle's at the bottom, and off we go. We're just going to keep weaving now, and it's going to take a while, but a lot of fun, okay? Okay, did you see the mistake? I was going from right to left and I had the heddle in the down position. You just got to kind of get into a groove with this. And it's pretty easy, but you got to pay attention to what's going on. If you make a mistake, you're going to know, right? Because it'll start to unravel because you didn't change the heddle position. I really love how this particular yarn builds up because it has a variation in the color and actually in the width as well, and so it makes quite an interesting weave. And although this is a very simple weave, it makes a very complex pattern, and that's sort of what you're looking for, right? Because I can always make a much more complex weave by using a couple of heddles or by using different colored threads. But, for simple, quick projects, making a present for someone, or, you just don't have a lot of time, this stuff's great. And the nice thing about the yarn when it's done is it's pretty soft. And the cotton's super fluffy and soft, and I really like how this builds up. So, I live in the Pacific Northwest. The weather's an awful lot like England. It gets pretty cold and wet. Wool scarves are for me at least, essential wear from November through to about May. So, if you can make them yourself, that's great. You can see now we've weaved probably 8 inches. Okay, so I'm going to put my shuttle up here. This is reasonably tight. And what I'm going to do is, as I release the tension on here, I'm going to hold the tension, and then I'm just going to kind of roll it on while keeping the tension about. It is looser. That's okay. You heard another cardboard separator drop down. That's totally fine. Okay, you can see now we're quite loose. So what we want to do here is just get our tension back. Okay, and that feels about right to me. I'm on the left-hand side. My shuttle goes down. Something that you're going to notice now is I've woven probably 1/3 of a ball off of here now, so there's a lot less wool on the shuttle, and it's getting much easier to get it through the shed. So it does get a little bit quicker and easier as you go. Again, we want to be at about sort of somewhere between 30 and 45 degrees. So we're just going to weave the last few weft threads in here, and then we are pretty much done. So that's awesome. So the next step is going to be basically we're going to stitch this off. Okay, and then I'll show you how to basically tie off all the threads. So I'm going to stop here, I think. I'll just come across to here. And then to finish off, what I'm going to do is basically cut this about halfway through and just do one last thread. And then I'm going to stitch it across. Okay, so snip there, and bring this in. I can do that with a shuttle or not. Just loop it over the shuttle just to push it through, and then it'll basically come loose as it gets most of the way in, and that's fine. Okay, so we're going to go like that. Okay. And there we are. And this little one we can just tuck in here. Because we're going to stitch it, I'm not worried about this coming loose. So just put that one in there, and you can neaten that up after you've stitched it. Okay. We have just made a scarf. That's pretty cool. So the next step is we're going to get our warp thread, and we're just going to do a very simple stitch across here to hold all of this in place. and that will keep it in place. We'll cut across the top, unwind it all, do the same thing at the end, and then we're ready to make tassels. And then the weaving part is all done.